Welcome back. Imagine you're living in a nice house. You like your house. It's a bit cold. Maybe the heating bill is high, but it's yours. Then, one morning, your billionaire neighbor knocks on the door. He doesn't bring a fruit basket. He brings a contract. He says, "I want to buy your house." You politely say, "Sorry, it's not for sale." He smiles and says, "You don't understand. I'm buying it." You say no again, and then he says, "Okay, until you sell me the house, I'm going to slash the tires of your car every morning. Then I'm going to cut your power lines. And then I am going to tax every single grocery bag you bring through the front door until you go bankrupt and beg me to take the house." Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a mob movie. This is geopolitics in 2026. President Trump has just dropped a nuclear bomb on the global economy. But instead of uranium, it is filled with tariffs. The headline is simple: "Sell me Greenland or I will destroy your economy." This isn't a rumor. It isn't a leaked draft. It is an ultimatum. Today, we are going to break down the most insane week in NATO history. We will look at the list of 8 countries that are about to get hit. We will read the wildest letter ever sent to a prime minister involving a Nobel Peace Prize. And we will explain why your German car, your French cheese, and your British tea are about to become luxury items. All because of an island full of ice. Buckle up. The trade war just turned into a hostage situation. Let's look at the numbers because they are terrifying. For the last few years, we thought the buy Greenland idea was a joke, a meme, something to laugh about on Twitter. Well, nobody's laughing now. The president has announced that starting February 1st, that is just days away, the United States will impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming from 8 specific European countries. Who is on the naughty list? It's the heavy hitters. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Ireland, Belgium, and of course, Denmark. But that's just the appetizer. The main course comes on June 1st. If these countries do not facilitate the total and complete purchase of Greenland by the United States, that tax goes up to 25%. Let's translate that into plain English. If you are a German car manufacturer like BMW, selling a $50,000 car in the US, suddenly that car has a $12,500 tax slap on the hood. Who pays that? You do. If you're buying Irish butter, French wine, or Italian suits, the price jumps. This is what economists call coercive diplomacy. But in the business world, we call it a hostile takeover. The logic from the White House is brutal but simple. Denmark can't afford Greenland. We can. We protect Europe with our military. Europe is rich, so give us the island or pay us for the protection. It is a transaction. But instead of money, the currency is pain. Now you might be asking, why now? Why is he so angry? And this is where the story goes from a political thriller to a dark comedy. A letter surfaced this week, a letter written by Trump to the Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas Gahr Støre. In this letter, the president basically says that he is done playing nice. Why? Because he didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize. I'm not joking. He claims he stopped 8 wars. He claims he brought peace to the Middle East, and yet the Nobel Committee in Oslo gave the prize to someone else. So the text of the letter essentially says, "Since you didn't acknowledge my contribution to peace, I no longer feel obligated to think exclusively about peace." This is incredible. We are potentially starting a global trade war, crashing the stock market and splitting up NATO because of a bruised ego over a shiny medal. It sounds petty, but it's actually terrifyingly effective. It signals to Europe, I don't care about your diplomatic norms. I don't care about your traditions. If you don't give me what I want, whether it is a prize or an island, I will flip the table. And right now, the table is the European economy. We talked about this in the last video, but we need to remember why this is happening. It's not because the US needs more snow. It's because underneath Greenland lies the future of technology, rare earth minerals. Neodymium, dysprosium, terbium. These are the unpronounceable metals you need to build F-35 fighter jets, nuclear submarines, and AI supercomputers. Right now, China controls about 90% of the processing of these metals. The US is terrified. If China turns off the tap, the American military-industrial complex grinds to a halt. Greenland is the backup plan. It has enough rare earths to supply the US for centuries. Plus, look at the map. If you put a missile base in Greenland, you control the Arctic. You can block Russian submarines. You can shoot down missiles coming over the North Pole. So, from the perspective of the White House, this isn't about land. It's about survival. They see Europe as weak and asleep. They think Denmark is sitting on a gold mine and refusing to dig. So, the logic is, we need this for the security of the West. If you won't sell it, we will force you. The problem is, people live there. Imagine being the Prime Minister of Greenland right now, Jens Frederik Nielsen. He woke up this morning and said, "Invading us is unlikely, but not impossible." Think about that sentence. A NATO ally is worried about being invaded by the leader of NATO. Greenland has its own parliament. They have their own language. They are an autonomous territory. They have stated clearly, we are open for business. You can come and dig. You can build mines, but you cannot own us. But the US doesn't want to rent. They want the deed. Why? Because if you just rent a base, the landlord can kick you out in 10 years. If you own the territory, it's yours forever. You can build whatever you want, drill wherever you want, and nobody can say a word. This is a clash of centuries. Europe is living in the 21st century where borders are fixed and self-determination is king. The US administration is operating with 19th century logic. The logic of the Louisiana Purchase or the purchase of Alaska. Here's a bag of gold, give me the map. And when these two worldviews crash, the markets bleed. Let's get back to your wallet. Because even if you don't care about maps, you care about money. The moment this news dropped, the S&P 500 took a dive. European markets are flashing red. Why? Because tariffs are contagious. If the US puts a 25% tax on Europe, well, Europe must respond. They can't just say, okay, daddy. They have voters too. So the EU is already preparing countermeasures. They will tax American bourbon, Harley-Davidsons, Teslas, and iPhones. Then the US will get mad and tax European medicine or machinery. This is a death spiral. Supply chains break, prices go up. Inflation, which we just barely got under control, comes roaring back. And here's the dark irony. The US wants Greenland to fight China, but by declaring an economic war on Europe, they are making Europe weaker. Who benefits from a trade war between the US and Europe? Xi Jinping is probably sitting in Beijing right now, watching CNN and eating popcorn. If the West is busy fighting over an ice island, they aren't paying attention to Taiwan. This ultimatum puts Europe in an impossible position. If they say no, which they have to because you can't just sell a country in 2026, their economies get crushed by the 25% tariff. Factories in Germany will close. Unemployment in the UK will rise. If they say yes, well, they actually can't say yes. Denmark legally cannot sell Greenland without the approval of the Greenlandic people. And the Greenlandic people have said no. So what is the end game here? Is Trump bluffing? Is this the art of the deal? Ask for the moon to get a better deal on mining rights? Maybe, but a 25% tariff is a very expensive bluff. There is a theory that the US is trying to break the EU. By targeting specific countries, Germany, France, UK, they are trying to get individual nations to panic and cut side deals. Hey Germany, help us get the island and we will drop the tax on your cars. It is a strategy of divide and conquer. We are entering uncharted waters. Usually, ultimatums are for enemies. Disarm or we attack. Leave or we shoot. You don't usually give an ultimatum to your oldest friends, but the definition of friendship in global politics has changed. It is now purely transactional. What have you done for me lately? You didn't give me a Nobel Prize? Tariff. You won't sell me the strategic island? Tariff. The next few months are going to be critical. February 1st is the first deadline. June 1st is the cliff edge. If this goes through, the price of everything imported will rise. The unity of the West will shatter. And Greenland, well, Greenland is suddenly the most dangerous place on Earth. We will keep watching the markets and the diplomats. But one thing is clear. The era of polite politics is dead and buried under the ice. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Europe will fold and find a way to give Greenland to the US? Or are we heading for the biggest trade war in history? And would you sell your house if your neighbor threatened to slash your tires? Don't forget to like and subscribe to see how this geopolitical poker game ends. Stay safe and watch your wallet.